In this discussion, we explore some of the biggest existential risks facing humanity and how our future might unfold over the next 100 to 200 years. We look at threats like nuclear war, climate change, engineered pandemics, and artificial intelligence. And we also hear the different perspectives on how technology, resource use, and social division could shape whether humanity thrives, struggles, or even faces extinction. Our first speaker is Kieran Christie, a Lincoln University student. How would you imagine the world in the next 100 to 200 years?
I'd imagine the world at that point would probably have advanced technology quite significantly. I'd like to think that we would have medical cures to almost everything by then. I'd think we'd have solutions to many of the globe's problems at the moment. In 100 years, I'd think space exploration, going for like meteorites or other sources of resources that can continue humanity's consumption or production.
Yeah, so if humans were to go extinct, what do you think would be the most likely cause?
Currently, there is quite a split in society. I'd say that could lead to the extinction of humanity because of just how split society would be, and if too many resources are consumed, then allow for the masses to expire to allow themselves to continue to live.
Yes,
in
hunger
comfort.
and extreme hunger could cause riots and things like that. Kieran Christie provides an optimistic view about technological advances, but is worried about the societal risks in the future. He imagines that in 100 to 200 years, we'll have far more advanced technology, medical cures for almost everything, and space exploration for resources, such as mining meteorites to sustain our production and consumption. However, he warns that deep social division and unequal access to resources could be dangerous. If some groups consume too much, others will be left to, quote, expire, leading to unrest and contributing to humanity's potential downfall. Our second speaker is Neil Nicholson, a social studies teacher at Christ's College. How would you imagine the world in the next 100 to 200 years?
I think technology will be, unless there's limits put on technology, I suspect it'll be totally different. I think there'll be a lot of unemployed people, whereas technology will be doing those jobs for people.
Alright, if humans were to go extinct, what would be the most likely cause?
AI.
What about climate change, nuclear war?
I think climate change, nuclear war, and AI, you could probably put them all on the same scale. AI is going exceptionally fast. Climate change is going fast, but it's always happening. Nuclear war, all it takes is one idiot to possibly have an impact. And that used to worry me more than AI did. I think I'm more worried about AI taking over and being extreme and uncontrolled than I am about climate change ending us all.
Alright, how do you think the lower birth rate will affect us in the future? Or do you think it will at all?
No, I don't think lower birth rates will affect us too badly. Lower the birth rate, because that is one of the things that is driving world population growth and the issues that we're having on resources. So the ability for us to gain more food and the ability of us to secure precious resources like, for example, Trump is trying to do against Iran and so forth.
Alright, lastly, do you think humans will go extinct?
Yeah, I think there is a real possibility that the human race itself will be heavily reduced. I think if I'm a doom or gloom merchant, there is a good chance that we could go extinct because we will run out of, eventually we're going to run out of resources to actually use. if you think that every piece of plastic that's ever been invented still exists in the world today, and that scares me.
Neil Nicholson provides a lot of information about technology, AI, and resource limitations. He imagines a future where technology replaces many jobs and worries that AI, climate change, and nuclear war were all serious threats. He says he's now more worried about AI becoming extreme and uncontrolled rather than about climate change alone. He also argues that lower birth rates is actually necessary because of pressure on food and resources. He also states how even something like permanence of plastic pollution is a frightening sign. Our last speaker is a historian and writer, Elizabeth Cox.
Experts estimate it's about 1 in 10,000 per century. Nuclear weapons were our first addition to that baseline. While there are many risks associated with nuclear weapons, the existential risk comes from the possibility of a global nuclear war that leads to a nuclear winter, where soot from burning cities blocks out the sun for years, causing the crops that humanity depends on to fail. We haven't had a nuclear war yet, but our track record is too short to tell if they are inherently unlikely or we've simply been lucky. We also can't say for sure whether a global nuclear war would cause a nuclear winter so severe it would pose an existential threat to humanity. The next major addition to our existential risk was climate change. Like nuclear war, climate change could result in a lot of terrible scenarios that we should be working hard to avoid. Even in this worst-case scenario, it's not clear whether warming would pose a direct existential risk, but the disruption it would cause would likely make us more vulnerable to other existential risks. The greatest risks may come from technologies that are still emerging. Take engineered pandemics. The biggest catastrophes in human history have been from pandemics, and biotechnology is enabling us to modify and create germs that could be much more deadly than naturally occurring ones. Such germs could cause pandemics through biowarfare and research accidents, decreased costs of genome sequencing and modification, along with increased availability of potentially dangerous information, like the published genomes of deadly viruses, also increase the number of people and groups who could potentially create such pathogens. Based on what we know at this point, some experts estimate the anthropogenic existential risk is more than 100 times higher than the background rate of natural risk. But these odds depend heavily on human choices, because most of the risk is from human action and it's within human control. If we treat safeguarding humanity's future as the defining issue of our time, we can reduce this risk, whether humanity fulfills its potential or not.
Elizabeth Cox provides an existential risks overview. She explains how nuclear war, climate change, and engineered pandemics are major threats, noting that advances in biotechnology makes it easier to create deadly pathogens. An interesting piece of information Elizabeth gave was that every century there is 1 in 10,000 chance of human extinction. Overall, she talks about the massive impacts that pandemics could have on us. Altogether, these perspectives show a future that could go in very different directions. On the one hand, rapid technological progress and medicinal and space innovations could solve many of our current problems. On the other hand, AI, climate change, nuclear war, engineered pandemics, resource depletion, and social division could push humanity towards collapse or even extinction. The key message is that our future isn't fixed. The choices we make now about technology, resources, and how we govern ourselves will ultimately decide whether these risks are amplified or brought under control.
1080 is a type of poison that is used to control pest animals such as possum, rats and stoats across different parts of the country. In my interviews, I will be asking questions to learn more about the different opinions on 1080 and whether people believe it is an effective way to manage pest populations. And first up, we'll have David Newton. Do you support 1080 poison?
Yes, I do. The science is pretty categorical in that the DOC research has come out in favour, as has the Minister of the Environment, and a study that was done by a commissioner who was tasked with investigating this issue. There is no other way of practically reducing the possum, rat and stoat loading in our vast areas of native bush. And without the 1080 controlling those particular pest populations, the native birds, which normally would have no predator pressure at all, are going to go extinct.
And next up we'll have Hamish Orbell. Do you support 1080 poison?
No.
Why is that?
Because it actually gets in the waterways, kills a lot of unintended animals, and native wildlife.
And next up we'll have Harry Holmes. Do you support 1080 poisoning?
No, I do not support it because it kills a lot of our big game animals like deer and tahr and chamois, and they just go to waste then. And it also gets in waterways and all sorts of shit like that, and birds can eat it, and then we don't really want them eating it. And yeah.
Do you think 1080 helps protect the wildlife?
It helps protect the native wildlife, birds, for breeding purposes by eliminating, certainly reducing vastly the populations of rats, mice, stoats, they're called mustelids. There is a by-kill as well as that for deer who pick up the baits, but there is no evidence that without that 1080 being applied, that those bird populations would increase in number as they do after a 1080 drop.
Do you think it helps protect the native wildlife?
Yeah, it definitely does. Long term wise, it probably it may benefit it, but in the short term, it'll kill most things. And it can go through 3 hosts.
Do you think 1080 helps protect the native wildlife?
I think it does in some ways. Yeah, definitely. But it doesn't do a big job, I don't think. I think trapping would be a better option because you're not as likely to get things that shouldn't be going around eating it or going there.
And last question, do the benefits of 1080 outweigh the risks?
The risks of 1080, as espoused by the opponents of 1080, are that there is a by-kill of dogs, which are used by hunters. The dogs are an introduced species of carnivore, and if they pick up a dead possum and then eat it, they will die, absolutely. So that is easily fixed by muzzling. If they're a pig dog and they need teeth to grab a pig, then they obviously won't be muzzled, but they should be under control by GPS, and they shouldn't necessarily they shouldn't go into a block which has just been treated with 1080. There are withholding periods with 1080, and I think it's 2 months from an airdrop, which should keep the dogs under control. The other main opponent is contamination of the water, with baits dropping into the water supplies. And there have been photos of the baits in streams and rivers. However, there's no categorical evidence of the 1080 reaching high enough concentrations in those water sources to cause any damage to anybody who is using that water further down the stream for presumably drinking. There's just been no evidence of that at all. So the two major opposition points about 1080, I think, are null and void. It's a very emotional subject, but when you look at the science, the risks are far outweighed by the benefits.
Do you think the benefits of 1080 outweigh the risks of it?
No.
Why is that?
Just because it kills a lot of unintended animals. It can definitely. I think they're getting better with it, but there needs to be some more research done with it. And I think there's other ways that we can get on top of pests than using 1080.
Oh yeah. Okay. Thank you. Do the benefits of 1080 outweigh the risks?
Nah, I haven't seen enough about it to answer that, unfortunately, but I don't think they do, really, because they're not bloody going and dropping it every day. If they were, I think it would, but nah, I don't think it does. No.
Oh, yeah. Sweet. Overall, I think that there's a very mixed opinion on 1080, as some people like it and how it protects our native wildlife, but others think that it's harmful to our native wildlife and our waterways. But I think that there needs to be a bit more research done for most people to have a good opinion on it. But all in all, thank you for listening to my interviews.
Ferrier, and for this investigation I explored the question, does social media have an effect on how teenagers behave? Social media is a major part of everyday life for many young people, influencing the way they communicate, learn and interact with others. To gain different perspectives on this issue, I interviewed psychologists Dr. Sarah Walker, parent Diana Barr, and both female and male students around my age. Their views provide valuable insights into the positive and negative impacts that social media can have on teenagers' behaviour and mental well-being. The first question I'll be asking is, how do you think social media affects the way teenagers behave?
So, I consider social media generally as a very powerful environmental influence that can shape adolescence and adolescent development in both positive and negative ways. So adolescence is this amazing critical period of development for identity, which is kind of figuring out who you are and what's important to you for learning, emotion regulation and self-esteem. And so social media affords both positive effects in that it can provide benefits around connection and friendships and creativity and lots of amazing access to around the world information and knowledge, but it also, particularly in excess or problematic use, can have pretty significant psychological consequences which cause concern for us as adults.
It affects their attention span because they're watching so many short videos, so their attention span gets shorter, you know?
Yeah.
It affects teenagers by having options to be able to communicate over distances.
Social media seems to give people the opportunity to engage with people outside their normal everyday life. So one of the positives, I guess, is the opportunity to engage with people that you don't see in real life. There are positives and negatives to that, I guess, but it does mean that teenagers often get engaged in things that are not their usual frame of reference. And by that I mean they start engaging in more adult behaviours. They start perceiving that they should have and do things that people who are older than them do. I think it has it gives you the opportunity to learn, to see more of the world. Nobody looks anything up in an encyclopedia anymore. They look for it on social media. And you see a lot of imagery that you wouldn't otherwise see, which kind of broadens your mind.
Second question I'll be asking is, what do you think are the biggest positive and negative effects of social media on teenagers?
I think positive for certainly enhancing social connection and communication, and particularly for people who might be a bit anxious or struggle with that. I think that's a really amazing benefit, and certainly when we look at COVID and those kind of situations, that kept you guys connected. I think there's access to educational opportunities and information that might not have been made available in the absence of that. There's a lot of TikTok education that occurs, which is some of it's quite helpful. I think it fosters creativity and self-expression and allows kind of peer support for lots of different issues, of which mental health is something that I see a lot of. Yeah. But equally, I think for adolescents and self-esteem, body image, comparison to others, frequent exposure to that social comparison and cyberbullying and criticism or exclusion can be of concern. And for the constant notifications, rapid content consumption, and sleep disruption, they're all kind of areas that I see a lot of in terms of where adolescents and adults actually might struggle with that, and they're not so helpful kind of factors relating to social media.
The positives, like you can connect with different people from all over the country to get different perspectives of global issues and stuff, and I don't know, it's just makes you feel more connected, and you can catch up with your friends and build relationships.
Positive is long distance communication. Negative is probably I don't know, cyberbullying.
Yeah, fair enough.
The biggest positive influence I see on teenagers is getting out of their own head in a way. Being able to see and feel like they're experiencing things outside their normal, seeing people pedaling down the Amazon or paragliding from the top of a multi-storey building or whatever. The negative effects, I think, are the bite-sized pieces of media that grab people's attention and have kind of created a scenario where it's really difficult to concentrate for more than 30 seconds at a stretch. Unfortunately, I think largely the negative influences are seen to outweigh the positives, because current teenagers have grown up in an environment where social media has always been there.
Yeah.
So that's impacting on the way you engage with each other and enable you to have a pastime which is just social media as opposed to a sport or something creative.
And the final question I have is, what advice would you give teenagers to help them use social media in a healthy and responsible way?
I think the first thing is being educated around platforms and, using social media as one way to connect with people is something that we use sparingly and with intention. But I think also being mindful to take breaks to protect sleep and kind of focus on face-to-face connection and movement and all the other things that we know are really important. And also talking to someone if you're struggling or something random happens online, there's a lot of cyberbullying, cyber sexting and all this other stuff that goes on. So really making sure that, irrespective of kind of what happens online, that someone you trust knows what's happening and you can share that with them. That's probably the number one thing that I see and I'm most concerned about.
Yes. Thank you very much, Sarah. It was so nice to meet you.
Love you.
Don't do stupid stuff.
Be mindful of what you say and do on the internet.
Yeah, don't do dumb stuff.
I think the advice I'd give is advice that I've been given by Sarah, the psychologist that you interviewed.
Yeah.
One of the things that she says is be where your feet are. And I think the reality is that teenagers need to understand who they are and where they live. What is their real life, as opposed to what they see on social media, and understand that that's a snapshot of other people's lives and experiences. If someone snapshotted theirs, it might look fabulous.
I'm Ewan, and today I will be talking about sports performance and how adapting balance a training approach which puts equal amounts of effort into every category of your training. The people I interviewed range in ages in sports. Firstly, I interviewed Yul Kwan, a Year 13 student, first 11 footballer, and Christ College prefect. Secondly, I interviewed Neil Wiley, an amateur road cyclist and a gym goer. Lastly, I interviewed Hannah, a Year 13 medical student and a competitive rower. My first question is, what does a typical training week look like for you?
Monday we have school strength and conditioning at lunchtimes in the gym, which is probably just working on like explosiveness and just different stretching and all kinds of stuff, preparing for the game on Wednesdays. And then Monday after school we have a school training. And that's our only school training with the first 11 for the week. And then moving on to Tuesday, I have a club training at night from 6:30 to 8 with the Kashmir Reserves team. And then Wednesday, we have a game for the first 11. Thursday, I have another club training with the Kashmir Reserves team from 6:30 to 8 again. And then also on the Thursday lunchtime, we have a recovery session in the gym. And then on the Friday is our rest day, is my rest day, and then on the Saturday I play for Kashmir Technical Reserves. And then on Sundays another rest day.
Like 1 hour rides with a mixture of different things. I try to do a bit of zone 2 riding, what's called zone 2 riding, which is low intensity stuff, but it's I probably don't do as much as I should.
As a medical student in Dunedin and a competitive rower, I train most days of the week. This includes rowing sessions on the water, as well as going to the gym 2 to 3 times for strength. I also focus on recovery and balancing training with my studies. I think balance training or intense training is more important for your performance at your level.
Work on all pillars of my game. It's like yes, I feel like it's important to work on what you need to improve on most, but it's like if you just leave out your strengths and you think you're fine with it and you don't need to keep training it, then obviously that part of your game is going to start to slip away from you. And I feel like it's really important to train all aspects of your game, not just the ones that you need to improve. Obviously, maybe you would pay more attention to the aspects of your game where you feel like you need most work on. Like personally, I probably do a lot more work on what I need to work on than what I don't. But also at the same time, I make sure when I train that I'm always, targeting all aspects of my game, working on a little bit of everything so that, the strengths of my game don't really slip away from me and they stay as my strengths.
I try and do a more balanced training approach. I have a bit of a variety because I work different hours each week, so I have more work some weeks and less weeks some others. But so I try and fit it around some work. But I definitely think balanced is better. I don't do what I really would like to do, which is what's called polarized training, where I do much more low intensity stuff because I just don't find it as interesting to do. As the high intensity stuff's more fun generally, like riding up hills, that type of stuff is more fun. But maybe
help improve performance, but recovery and consistency are just as important. A balanced approach helped me avoid injury and perform well throughout the season. Last question is, do you ever find it hard long schedule?
Yeah, it definitely is tricky to fit in schoolwork, especially like last year as well. I was doing a similar thing, and this year obviously as well. Like doing NCEA is real difficult to kind of fit in all these like internals and externals and these like lots of tests and assignments that we have, and it is very difficult because I feel like when you get home from after school, you don't have a lot of. For me, I don't have a lot of motivation, and I need to get ready for training and whatnot. And so, yes, I do find it pretty difficult. I probably end up staying up real late at night, finishing my schoolwork because I don't have any time.
Yeah, I do all the time. I quite frequently finish work late, which means I then lose a lot of time where I would go to the gym. Like over all the years, I've probably missed lots of gym sessions and lots of evening road rides and training because I've had to work late, or something's come up at home. And also sometimes I have to start work early as well, which means I can't really train before work in the morning and have to transport as well. So
Yes, it can be challenging at times. As a medical student in a competitive role, both training and study requires a lot of time and effort. I stay organised by planning my week in advance and prioritising important tasks. While it can be stressful during busy periods, having a routine helped me manage both successfully. After interviewing everyone, I came to the conclusion that everyone followed a structured training program that included both physical training and recovery. All of them believed that balanced training was more important than constant intense training because it helps improve performance while reducing risk of injury or burnout. They also said that balancing training with school, university, or work can be challenging, but good time management and organisation help keep them successful overall. The interviews show that the consistency, recovery, and balance are key factors in athletic performance.
I'll be interviewing 3 people about various questions about compulsory school sport. How does compulsory school sport affect students' physical and mental health?
I think with all extracurricular activities, including sport, it's great for general enjoyment and so therefore strengthens mental health as well as the learning the soft skills of collaboration, teamwork, and that's not to mention the physical benefits that come with playing sport. And so I think compulsory school sport encourages and increases physical and mental health, especially for those that might struggle to do it otherwise.
Yeah, good question. Thank you for asking, Matthew. So I think having some form of physical activity is important for any person at any age. But particularly at high school age, I think having regular exercise is very good for your mental health and overall physical well-being. So the question really is about should it be compulsory or not? And I guess what that comes down to is it's partly about what the policy of the school is, but it's also about students being able to choose a sport that they feel suits them, that kind of works for their own interests and talents, but also allows them to be physically active.
Well, Matthew, I went to a grammar school and it was 50 years ago now, but we had compulsory sports. We had compulsory rugby in winter and we had cricket and athletics in summertime. I was young for my year and I was small for my age. I was never going to be competitive in any shape or form at rugby, athletics or cricket. So for my mental and physical well-being, it was a complete and utter waste of time.
Should school students be able to choose other activities other than the school sport offered?
I think I've been very fortunate over my time at college to be able to participate in a number of extracurricular activities, including sports, productions, and music. And I think what's offered, I think different things are gained from each one, and none of them, whilst they can help each other and some aspects overlap, none of them can fully encompass what the other ones include. And so whilst there could be the option for doing in one semester or one term, or for terms 2 and 3 playing a compulsory sport and terms 1 and 4 doing a compulsory cultural activity, I don't think the complete eradication of sport in order to do a cultural activity or other activity is fully helpful.
I think if the school offers a wide range of sports, then there should be something that every student should be able to find that they can enjoy and participate in. But if there was a particular sport that wasn't offered at the school and the student was really keen on it and it would help their regular exercise and physical fitness, I think it would be a reasonable case to make that they should be able to do that sport outside of school. But I guess it would depend on individual circumstances.
Well, what I was interested in was rock climbing, and the school, instead of Saturday sports, I was allowed to join the school scout troop, who were basically a bunch of no-hopers, but we had a great time. We went away camping, we went sailing, we went climbing, and that was very good for both my mental well-being, my physical well-being, and laid a future for tramping and camping that I've kept up to this very day.
Does compulsory school sports help with students' social skills?
Definitely. I think with all situations in which you're forced to work together with people in high stress situations, and generally any time you talk to people, it develops your social skills, including on the sports field. So any time you get to talk to people is a great opportunity to develop your social skills, including on the sports field.
Well, I think if it's I think any sport is going to help with social skills. I mean, especially team sports, because you have to be part of a team and work with a team. But even in the solo sports that some students have, where they're kind of just playing against another competitor, I think the relationships they make with other players, learning about sportsmanship and the ability to win and to lose in good spirit, I think that helps people in all kinds of social situations. So overall, I think sporting activities can be really helpful for developing social skills.
I would say that developing social skills can also be good developing with other friends a healthy dislike of sport and a cynical disregard for everything to do with sports and sports people. My friends and I, who were the chess players and the bridge players at lunchtime, we despised the sports players because they were different from us and they looked down on us, and it shouldn't really be that way.
In conclusion, compulsory school sports have both benefits and drawbacks. While they help students stay active and develop teamwork skills, not everyone enjoys participating.
Sport. It's something that we would have all done as kids while we grew up. Something that made you bond with others around you. Something that gives you skills for the future. Something that teaches you important values. Hi, my name is Archie Robinson and welcome to my podcast where we talk about should sport be compulsory at schools. Our first interview is with Brian Stronach, who works with New Zealand Cricket. Do you think sport is important for a kid growing up?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Sport, I think, does a whole lot of things. So I reckon I talk about it does a thing called social structure.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're playing sport, you're less likely to do something naughty. And then there's a physical and a mental well-being aspect to it that I think is really important for kids and adults for that matter. Yeah.
Do you think sport teaches kids important values growing up?
Yeah, I do. And a lot of it comes back to, like I said before, the social network bit. Like if you're playing sport, then it keeps you busy and it keeps you away from doing other things. But I think the other bit for me is the friendship piece, like especially team sport. I like my kids to play some sort of team sport because it teaches you that whole social aspect where you can grow up, you've got to help each other, you've got to be kind to each other, but you also got to be competitive and how all that stuff kind of works together.
Do you think sport can affect a kid's personal well-being in a good or bad way?
Oh, I think it can affect kids in both a good and a bad way. It depends on who they're playing the sport with, because in some bad occasions it does give people a license to behave in a poor way if it's not refed or coached the right way. But as long as it's refed or coached the right way, I actually think it helps with well-being massively. I think the physical nature and the social interaction and all those sort of things really helps, but it just needs to be done the right way and controlled the right way.
We now move on to Lauren Kelvin, who is a teacher at St Albans Primary School. Do you think sport is important for a kid growing up?
I do think it is important for a kid growing up because for some children more than others, because especially children who need to burn a lot of energy, some children aren't into sport, but I still think it does develop some important skills.
Do you think sport teaches kids important values growing up?
Yes, I definitely think sport does teach children important values. For example, responsibility, organisation, resilience. Generally, just being part of a team teaches them to support their teammates, to not let other people down. They have to make sure they've got their gear organised, and all those things.
Do you think sport can affect a kid's personal well-being in a good or bad way?
I definitely think certain types of sport can help their well-being. I think it's good for children to be moving their bodies, getting fresh air, which releases those endorphins and makes them feel really good. I do think in some situations for some children, you have to find the right kind of body movement for them, because certain types of competition can make them feel anxious and not very good. So it depends, but I think overall for most children, moving their body is really good for their well-being.
Our final interview is with Jeffrey Bergen, who is a Year 11 student at Christ College. Do you think sport is important for a kid growing up?
I do think sport is important for a kid growing up because it gets them outside so they can make more friends and puts them in a good environment to learn.
Anything else?
I think it helps children grow fundamental understanding of the world around them and how things aren't all about them.
Do you think sport teaches kids important values growing up?
I do. I believe it teaches them perseverance and good teamwork skills, which are useful in the office. I also believe it teaches them to not only rely on each other, but become reliable.
Anything else?
Not really, no.
Do you think sport can affect a kid's personal well-being in a good or bad way?
I believe it affects a kid's personal well-being in a positive way, because not only is it going to teach them resiliency, but it's going to give them someone they can rely on if things go poorly, because they build stronger and deeper connections through their friends, which they've made through the team.
Do you think there's anything in a bad way?
Potentially in a bad way is that they don't necessarily get along with their teammates. However, when you're with a team for the entire season, that's almost never going to happen because you're going to build such good bonds.
To summarise up today's podcast, I hope we can all agree that sport can help you in many ways. Stuff like social interactions, future skills, commitment, respecting others, and friendships that can last a lifetime. Sport has helped me with all these values and has made me brave enough to make this podcast. I hope that I've convinced you enough to say that sport should be compulsory.